Recording, there we go. I think we're also on Facebook Live, and I think we're ready to go. And people will become, whoops. Welcome everybody. Thank you for being here today. So far we have, let's see, we have 27 people on. That's great. My name is Katz. I'm Director of Arts Wisconsin. We're the state's community cultural development organization. I am also a board member of the Wisconsin Downtown Action Council, and I'm very glad to be here to talk to you about some of my favorite things, the arts and downtowns. Excuse me, a few housekeeping things. Please put your name, organization, community, and email in the chat, especially if you didn't pre-register, so that we know who is here, because I'm going to follow up, especially since I'm going to follow up afterwards with links and information that I talk about in this presentation and that you might want to be interested in. So that will be helpful if we have your email address, especially. Please mute yourself if you're not talking, so we don't have background noise, and we'll have time for questions and answers afterwards. We're recording the session and it is on Facebook Live, I hope. So we will make sure that you all get a copy of it and spread it around. And I'm going to cover as much as I can today, and there's a lot to talk about. So if you have questions, thoughts, comments, ideas you want to talk about, if we don't talk about them today, or even if we do, feel free to get in touch with me, and I'm happy to chew over any ideas you have. So I'm going to talk about research, best practices, ideas to help make the arts part of your vibrant downtown. There are so many stories out there. I have had the privilege of traveling extensively around the state over the last almost 30 years, not so much in the last 2 years, but I hope to get back to it soon. And I know you all have great stories, and I wish I could tell them all, but I'll keep trying. And as I said, we do a lot of this kind of conversation, so we'll keep telling your stories, and I'm happy to talk to you about any of this after and anytime. So let's just see. There we go. The Wisconsin Downtown Action Council, as I said, I'm a board member, is a champion for downtowns. The organization has been around for, I should know this, at least 30 years as a champion for downtowns. We provide resources and toolboxes for development and planning. We educate people about the developers and everybody about the benefits of downtown. We work to remove barriers to downtown development, and we partner with other organizations to promote growth and sustainability for downtowns. As I said, I'm Director of Arts Wisconsin. We're an organization that has been around for almost 30 years, and we're all about creativity for everyone, everywhere in Wisconsin, so that everyone can benefit. We work on creative economic workforce, economic and community development, advocacy, promotions, to help Wisconsin its people and its communities grow and thrive. So WDAC, and Arts Wisconsin are very similar organizations. We are working to make the most of Wisconsin's assets, which are considerable. So I'm very, this is great work, and I'm happy to be a board member, and I'm glad to be talking about it today. Just a quick comment that when I talk about the arts, that is a very broad subject. And in fact, the more that we do this kind of development work, we being Arts Wisconsin, the more we are not talking about the arts. I love to talk about the arts. My whole life has been in the arts, and nothing against the arts when I say I don't really want to talk about the arts right now. I want to talk about creativity. Our message is that the arts are fundamental to the human experience. Everyone is creative in some way. If we had the time to go around the screen and ask you all what you do creatively, we would find out that you are all involved in some creative endeavor, whether you are a plein air painter, or you sing in the church choir, or your kid takes ballet lessons, or you like to cook or do woodworking or something. Everybody is creative. One of the things that we all do to ourselves is that we say, oh, I'm not a very good artist, or I'm not a very good singer. And that really has nothing to do with anything, because if you enjoy it, you do it. And so our work is all about making sure that people have the opportunity to have that experience, whatever it means to them anywhere in the state. That's the foundation of the work. On top of all of that is the fact that the arts are essential to Wisconsin's success. The arts are part of, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but the arts are part of economic vitality, education for the 21st century, vibrant communities and downtowns, and engaged residents. Humans have been coming together through the arts, whether it's making music together or performing or creating art since the beginning of time. And so the arts are something that is good for our soul, and it's good for our economy, our workforce, and our quality of life. And so I never, ever, ever, ever get into a conversation about what is art or who's an artist. That's not my job. My job is to help everyone be creative in some way and to help communities and downtowns in this circumstance realize the power of creativity for their community and for their downtown. So that's a long introduction to say the arts are all about visual arts, standalone art, sculptures, murals, events, art fairs, festivals, performance facilities and public spaces, events, and really, most importantly, I think, about incorporating the arts into planning and development and the ongoing life of the community. I know that there are a lot of people who are representing bid districts and chambers of commerce and Main Street programs and public art committees and you're all civically engaged. And I think the most important thing that I can impart is that all of you may not consider yourself to be involved in the arts, but all of you are creative and all of you are civically minded. And that's the most important thing to consider when we talk about the arts as an essential component of a vibrant downtown. That's my little speech. So now I want to talk about research. Oh, come on. My mouse is not working. There we go. It's hard to quantify the arts in many ways because wrapping your head or your arms around everything from our very high quality and world-class professional organizations in this state, which is everything from the big organizations in the big cities to the volunteer-run organizations in small towns. Those are part of the arts. But again, as I said, everyone has an artistic discipline. But in order to help show that the arts are a factor in economic, workforce, and community impact and development, there has been in the last, I'd say 10 years or so, a real effort out there in the world in not only arts research organizations, but civic organizations to quantify the impact of the arts, whether it's the economy or quality of life. So we have some good information that we can share. And when you say that the arts industries, the creative industries in Wisconsin have a 10.9 billion with a B economic impact to a decision maker, their eyes get very big. And so because that's a pretty impressive number. Now that number comes from the US Department of Commerce and their Bureau of Economic Analysis, which over the last 5 or 6 years, maybe 7, have been crunching the numbers about the value of the creative industries in this country. And so they've looked at 35 different creative industries, nonprofit organizations, for-profit businesses, individual entrepreneurs, self-employed artists, design, media, architecture. There's a very wide range of creatively focused businesses and jobs out there. They've crunched those numbers. They came up with almost $1 trillion, $999 billion in terms of economic impact nationwide, $10.9 billion of economic impact in Wisconsin. In addition, as you can see on the screen, the total number of full-time jobs or full-time employment, because people who are self-employed don't necessarily have jobs, but they are employed. is over 96,000 jobs. And those are more jobs than the state's beer, biotech, and paper making industries, not combined, individually, but still. It's an industry of consequence. And we use that argument, and I hope you will, that it has economic punch as well as the fundamental intrinsic values when we are making the case to legislators and to elected officials of any kind and to business people about the fact that, again, the arts are good for our souls and they're good for our economy. So those are good numbers to have. Now, I have to quantify it, of course, by saying that those are numbers pre-pandemic. Those are from 2019. In March, the Department of Commerce will release numbers for 2020, and then we'll see the impact of what the pandemic has done to our state and our downtowns and everything. And you're waiting for those numbers, you live those numbers every day, but the numbers will drop significantly, and therefore we'll use those in that way, because as you all know, small businesses, which include arts businesses, have been dramatically impacted in a negative way by the pandemic. And as we hopefully get out of it, things are coming back, but they're not coming back as they were. And I don't have this on the screen, but I've seen statistics that show that the arts industry, in terms of people going to performances, spending money on activities, even purchasing art, will take another 2 or 3 years to really come back to pre-2020 strength. So it's dramatic, but it's what it is. And we are glad to be able to use the fact that this is an industry worthy of investment, and the work that you're doing on the ground is worthy of support, because before the pandemic hit, it had a significant impact, and we want to get back to that. Okay, the next research I want to cite just came out on Wednesday, as it happens, from the Brookings Institute, which is an esteemed research institution. And you can see, I don't need to read this to you, but you can see on the screen that they measured quality of life in terms of how it affects business development. And they made a special point. So recreational activity opportunities, cultural activities, good schools, transportation have more of an impact on healthy local economies than the business-friendly measures that we have traditionally thought of, like tax breaks and things like that. Not that those aren't important, but it is as important to make sure that quality of life is big in a community as anything. And again, I'm not telling you something you don't know, but it's always nice to have an esteemed research institution confirm it. They've made a special point in this research, and I'll show you this graph, which I find it hard to read these graphs, but basically it shows that in a smaller community, it's especially important because you can see that what they put on the screen here are places like Whitewater, Wisconsin, and Traverse City, Michigan, and Jefferson County, Nevada, I think. So we have many stories, as I have said. We also have research to support the fact that the amenities, especially arts amenities that you have in your community of any size, and especially smaller communities, makes a huge difference in terms of population growth, employment growth, and lower poverty rates. People want to live in places that have things to do for themselves and their kids. You all know that, but again, it's nice to have research that proves it. So I wanted to take a few minutes and give you a few stories. Again, there are a million stories out there, and I wish I could do justice to more, but I wanted to show a few examples of communities around the state, smaller communities around the state that have been working in the arts realm in their downtowns and in their communities for X number of years, and what kinds of things they have they have been able to do and still are doing. Let me make sure you all know, again, not something you don't know, that it's not that any community comes up with an idea and then everybody jumps on board and everyone holds hands and sings Kumbaya, and there's tons of money and nothing goes wrong. No offense meant to any project that I'm talking about. But the reality, as you all know, as civic leaders and developers, whether public or private, is that all of these are the projects that you do in your community, whether they're arts or anything else, whether they're an engineering project or something with the construction or sewage or whatever, they're all processes, and they're all processes that are as planned as possible and implemented by humans, and things happen. You're humming along and a pandemic happens. No one starts out with the money, really. The people start out with the idea and the conviction that there's something good to be done here. And that conviction and that idea drives the process. And I'll talk about this after, but persistence and perseverance is the way to go. So I get a lot, I say that because, again, not something you don't know, but I get a lot of calls, or I get a lot of conversation from people around the state who say, well, what's an example of a community that's really figured it out? There isn't a community that has figured it out. You're all figuring it out every day, every minute, as you go along. And again, you all know that, you all live that. But I want to make sure that I want to just drive home the message that the work that you're all doing and want to do is fraught with unforeseen circumstances and things you can't control, again, global pandemics, and great ideas and heart and community engagement. And so I'm happy to talk to anybody afterwards about how the process, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But I just want to, really want to keep stressing that there's no other community that knows exactly what they're doing and has it all figured out. We are all figuring this out together. And that's part of the beauty. We're all figuring this out together. So that's, again, my little soapbox. So in Baraboo, as you know, Baraboo is the home of Circus World. So I've had a public art project around circus elephants. The Public Arts Committee, which I actually think is just called Public Arts now, was a committee of the city, and the mayor was very involved in making it happen with the support of local government and community leaders. And I believe that now it's an independent organization, but again, with the support of the city. The elephants are one public art examples. I didn't put this on the screen, but they also have done a series of murals, and especially a mural honoring civic leaders of all kinds. And so again, someone had an idea, the mayor had an idea, and it took off from there. In Appleton, Creative Downtown Appleton is a project of Appleton Downtown, and it has been a way to carry forward creative ideas in downtown Appleton, whether it is whether it's a public art project, whether it's a public art map. As you can see, this is on their website, that all of the public, or as the public art is created in downtown Appleton, they have a place where they can, where visitors and residents can get to it. Creative Downtown Appleton is really all about a continuous engagement of the public and the community in engaging in creativity in their downtown. And so this is a project that's an ongoing project that's all about community access, engagement, and inclusivity. So again, another example of the bid district and the downtown organization that established this committee, this project, so that they would have a way to drive that kind of development. In Janesville, about a year and a half ago, I think, in October of 2020, a new pedestrian bridge opened. And as you can see, it's quite an artistic experience. Now, one of the things that I want to point out is that, well, two things. One is that Janesville is a community that for X number of years, almost 100 years, made its brand dependent on a major corporation that provided family supporting stable jobs, GM. And GM was Janesville and Janesville was GM, and that was an identity for Janesville. As we all know, 10 years ago, Janesville lost GM. GM moved out of Janesville, and Janesville has had to develop a new identity. This is the case for a lot of Wisconsin communities. Again, there could be your community, that there was a major employer, a major manufacturing employer of some kind that provided for a long time the kind of stability that a community really depended on. As we keep going into the 21st century, and certainly the pandemic has changed, in some ways exacerbated this. Wisconsin is still a manufacturing state, and we still need to have creativity in all employment sectors, including manufacturing. But we're not having as many of the powerhouses that we had before: the paper industry in Wisconsin Rapids and the Fox Valley, GM in Janesville, AMC in Kenosha. Those kinds of businesses are no longer as influential and important as they were. We still want to be a manufacturing state, and it's still important. But the hallmark and Wisconsin is not, of course, the only state that is experiencing this. This is a global trend. Janesville, Wisconsin Rapids, Kenosha, and every single one of our communities have to think of what their brand and identity is in the 21st century. The 21st century business model is more about creativity, innovation, imagination, and entrepreneurship. Small businesses, entrepreneurs, individual people who are self-employed. And again, the pandemic has exacerbated that in many ways, which we are only just beginning to figure out. I put this, so I say that because Janesville is working hard to figure out what the next 100 years are going to be. And all of you are working hard to figure out what the next 100 years are going to be. So this pedestrian bridge, and you see the fact that there's a little amphitheater on the left side of the picture, creating a quality of life that people can enjoy, all people can enjoy, visitors, residents, everyone, is part of that branding. Janesville could have put just a plain old bridge across the river. They could have put no bridge across the river and just used the existing car bridges that were already there. But the decision was made that there would be a way for people and bikes to cross the bridge, and that it would be as not only functional, but that it would be artistic. And so, again, it was a process. I don't have the details of the process, although we'll have to do a case study on that. But it was a public-private partnership. There's certainly private money that made it happen, which is almost always the case. But the city of Janesville and its related downtown partners have had to be as creative as possible and as collaborative as possible to make this happen. And so I think this bridge is not only a beautiful artistic product, but it's also a great example of the collaboration that we all are doing and need to do, again, in the 21st century world we live in. Another great example of the arts at work is in Ashland. Again, Ashland is also known for its murals all over the downtown. It's also been, in the last few years, known for things like trash and recycling bins is unusual, that are artistic products. These are a volunteer and a city staff member working on the process of putting together the bins and creating the mosaics with local artists. If you've been to Ashland, you also may have seen, and I'm sorry, I don't have a picture of this, the pedestrian bridge that connects the downtown to the lake, which again was a plain old pedestrian tunnel that was turned into, with the involvement of the city, and in fact, the young woman on the right here is the person who was a city part of the city planning department and came up with the idea that there should be an artistic experience as you're going through this tunnel. So, and I'm sorry I didn't find the picture, but I'll send it to everybody after. So the walkway from the downtown to the lake, which of course the lake is the city of Ashland's major asset, besides its people, is a mosaic walkway that represents the Schwamigan Bay area, that has the water environment, the native culture, the people, the artistic experiences of that area as you walk through this bridge. And again, I'll send it to everybody afterwards. But none of these were foretold. These were, again, you have to have trash and recycling bins in your downtown. Let's make them interesting. You have to have a way to get from the lake, from the downtown to the lake, going under Highway 2. Let's make it interesting. And so those were ideas that came from one person or a group of people. The city was involved, volunteers were involved, and they made it happen, and they continue to make those kinds of things happen. In Egg Harbor in Door County, the village created a public arts initiative, which is now again an independent organization. It's fairly common for villages, towns, or cities to create a committee. Sometimes it's becoming more common. Sometimes a committee stays as an advisory committee to the local government. Sometimes it spins off to become an independent nonprofit with civic and with the public sector involvement. Oh, thank you, Aaron, for putting that tunnel website in there. I will make sure that everybody gets that after. But in Egg Harbor, the village started this public arts initiative and worked pretty hard on cultural planning to make sure that public art could be a part of Egg Harbor. It has been, and the life of Egg Harbor, it has been a kind of common thing over the last, I don't know, 30 years for communities to look at whatever their brand is, what people think of when they think of a place like Egg Harbor, and then make a public art project of it. So Hodags in Rhinelander, eggs in Egg Harbor, sturgeons in Sturgeon Bay. We did cows in Madison a few years ago, and it's a way to show off, again, the assets or the brand of the community, so that in an artistic way. And so these are two examples from Door County where the public sector and the private sector work together to make sure that there could be these public art projects around the community. Any community can do it. It's just a matter of getting it done and starting it and getting it done. Stockholm, Wisconsin is a village of 66 people along the Mississippi River. They also have the Wide Spot Performing Arts Center, which is on the second floor of this building in downtown Stockholm. And by the way, if you have not been to Stockholm, the first floor on the right is the Stockholm Pie Company, which has been noted as one of the 10 or 20 best pie places in the country. So I recommend it highly. Anytime I can get to Stockholm, I always have pie. But they have a performing arts center, which has at times hosted up to 150 people for not only a performance, but a candidate forum or a radio show or some kind of civic event. They also have the world famous Stockholm Art Fair, which draws thousands of people every year to downtown Stockholm to partake in the art of the Wisconsin's West Coast. Stockholm also does things, and I went through the town that weekend, so I remember it. One weekend they had a wine tour, a public art tour, a bike tour and a garage sale, I think, that went down one side of the river and then across the bridge and up the other side of the river. They also have something called the 100-mile garage sale, which again goes up and down the river and is a collaborative project of the river towns. I love showing off Stockholm because again, it's a town of 66 people, maybe more by now, but last census, I think it was about 66 people. And so they, through sheer grit, determination, and ongoing work, they have done events like this and ways to bring people to town and have people want to be in the town. There are also a number of galleries, restaurants, etc. Wittenberg is another small town east of Wausau, between Wausau and Green Bay, that has a series of murals called the Walls of Wittenberg, and a small art center and a sculpture park. Again, not only can you go to Wittenberg for Newski's bacon, but you can go to Wittenberg for art, for the arts. And so again, a public-private partnership in that it was an idea of an individual, and the fact that they have murals around town and a sculpture park in the middle of the downtown is something that, again, the public-private partnership, that kind of thing happens because of that. Okay, those are, again, those are just a few examples. I wish I could show off everybody, but we'll just continue to do that as much as possible. And I love that, Kate, bacon and art, pies and art. Sometimes I'll just say thank you. Sometimes I say that because I've been traveling the state for for more than 30 years. I know where the best pie and ice cream is, not only where the best arts are, and the best arts are everywhere, but if you want to know where the best pie and ice cream is, let me know. But it's all connected, right? Handmade, homegrown, local art, local food, local wine, local beer. All of these are intrinsic experiences that add to the joy in life, and they're good for business. And so I do make it a point to not only sample the arts in a community, but to sample the local cuisine. So, hey, it's a great part of the job. That's why I want to get back to traveling. Again, lots of stories, but I want to talk a little bit more about how you make things happen. Again, you're all doing this work, but I want to applaud you and confirm the partnerships that have to happen. So again, you all on the screen represent, or in this meeting, represent public art committees, Main Street programs, bid districts, chambers of commerce, for-profit, nonprofit partners, volunteers, hard workers. And you're all coming up with great ideas every day that happen because of, again, sheer grit and determination. And no one can do any of this alone. These things happen because of the commitments that you make. You commit to diversity, inclusivity, livability, good quality of life for all. You're all about enriching design, public spaces, accessibility, walkability. You're really all about placemaking and placekeeping. And I say placekeeping, placemaking is a term that's really been in fashion. And I don't mean that in a bad way, not just in the arts world, but in the kind of community development world for X number of years. And that's about, it is about making your place a good place to live, work, and play. But I want to also point out that placekeeping is a fundamental part of that. No place starts out with a blank slate, excuse me. We live on native lands. We have a rich history going back centuries. And there are facets of our communities that are what we are proud of and that are assets. And so it's all about using creativity to make sure that we can promote and extend that placemaking and placekeeping. Again, public and private partners, everybody's got ideas, everybody has hopes, everybody wants to make their community better. It's a lot of work, but there isn't any way around it. We want to you're all engaging the worlds of business, social service, community to share ideas for your downtown and potential funding opportunities. And I'll talk about this in a minute, but you all want to brag about what you're doing. You all want to brag about your community and what is possible and what could be possible. And so those are commitments that you're all making to your downtowns, to your communities as you do your work. Okay, let me talk a little bit more about how to make things happen, because that's a pretty common question I get as well. Where do you start? Well, again, you focus on those commitments and what's going to benefit your community, whether you live there, whether you want people to live there, or whether people are just visiting. And what is going to benefit the entire community, not just a small part of the community or a small portion of the residents, but what's going to benefit the community overall. Let me talk about money and resources. I am sorry to say that I do not have any brilliant magic ideas or answers to the issue of where does the money come from. There isn't one guaranteed route to getting money and resources. Actually, I'll say that the only guarantee is that you keep looking for the money and you keep looking for the resources and gathering them together as you work on a project. That's not a very satisfactory answer, I would say, but it is the truth. One of the most common questions, other common questions I get is, where can I find a grant? Where's the money? I can give you a list of grants. That's fine. But I would ask just one grant. That's all you need is one grant. And it's not about the money first. It's about the idea. A good idea drives the money. And so I have lots of lists of resources. Erin Welty, who's on this call, and I don't see other, I'm not looking at the list, so I know there are other people who have lots of lists of resources and where to find funds. So we're happy to share all of that. It is also the case that I believe that money comes from the ground up. In other words, there are grants, there are absolutely grants out there that will help your project. The most sustainable money comes from the people that benefit from what you're doing. Again, this is not brain surgery. So local community support, business sponsorships, whatever people can do, local foundations, local philanthropists, that's where you start. Now, in some ways, it's easier to write a grant, you push a button, and then you send it to the funder. That feels easier. It's kind of hard. It's hard to ask people for money, but I know you are all good at that. And that's what you have to do. You actually don't have to ask people for money. You have to ask people to support this great thing for their community, and I believe that the money comes from there. So local fundraising campaigns, campaigns where people purchase a tile for the downtown plaza. That is a very common thing. Raffles, auctioning art. All of those are a lot of work and a lot of hours. But again, building community support is what those do. We all dream that I'm generalizing for effect, that some rich person will come along and give us a boatload of money so we can do the project, which is great. If there are very generous people in this state and we appreciate their generosity. I will say, however, that it's my experience, and probably yours too, that if you get a big bunch of money and you don't have to engage the community in the project, then the community doesn't necessarily support the project as much as you would like them to. Fundraising, as painful as it can be, is really all about engaging the community in your dream, and making it theirs and making them own it. So when you ask someone for $50, they are putting their money into a project that's going to benefit them. And that's where the community support is. I have seen projects where one big, very generous funder, bless their hearts, gave the money. And then that project had problems along the way where they had to go back to the community and ask for money. And the answer to that question is, you had a boatload of money. Why are you asking me for money? I don't care. Again, I'm exaggerating for effect, but that actually happens. And so you have to have a balance. Okay, so you have to have a balance between someone with the very generous people that are out there in the state and the basic community support that you need to make sure that people are engaged. If people are engaged in the process, whether it's for fundraising or whether it's for agreeing on a design for the downtown plaza, or whether it's choosing the artist that's going to do the logo for your organization, people love to be engaged in that kind of thing, especially if kids are involved, especially if it's about, you know, your community that you want to be proud of. And so again, that's kind of a long answer to the question is, where's the money? The money is, you keep looking for it and you keep looking for the resources. Individual projects are the result of processes. So the city, the village, the town has a plan about enhancing the downtown, or about building a pedestrian bridge, or about improving the sidewalks, or about anything. That's the process. The individual project of the pedestrian bridge, of the sidewalk poetry, of whatever, is the project. What I want to always focus on is the longer term process, because it's great when you do a project. It's wonderful when you open an art center, or you create a plaza, or you do some really cool project that people want to support and people want to be part of. It just improves everything. And then, you know, as the organization that's keeping things going, you have to keep things going. And so I'm always trying, so we work a lot on planning and consulting to help people have that long-term thinking. And so that's how you make things happen. Public-private partnerships, persistence and perseverance. It's like you tell your children, well, that didn't work. Try it again, honey. Most things that are worth doing are hard. If they were easy, they would have been done already. And so it really is a matter of really believing that this is a great project in my downtown. This is going to enhance my community. This is going to make things, this is going to be a creative way to look at our community. And we're going to keep working on it and keep it going. So again, another little soapbox. So, okay, that's what I have to say. My contact information is here. It's in the chat box. I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and I will again follow up with everyone who I have emails for. Oh, all these people on the screen. This is great. I'm going to follow up with emails where you'll get my contact information, and you'll get links to all of these and more projects that are out there in the state. I'm interested now in questions, comments. If you want to brag about something that you did that was really cool, or if you want to put out a question that you want people to answer, we've got about 15 minutes to do that. And I would love to hear from some of you. You can either put the little hand up that's on the Zoom thing, or you can raise your hand on the screen and I'll call on you. Who's first? Don't be shy. You've all got really cool things going on. Okay, I will start. Kate Westby, since you're on the screen now and you are president of WWDAC, would you just like to say a few words, since I didn't get to have you on the screen at the beginning, to welcome people? Oh, I hope she's there. Okay, maybe not. I see her on this. I see her name on the screen, but maybe she's not there. All right, who else can I put on the spot? Erin, I'm gonna call on you if you're still there. To just say
I am.
words.
I just couldn't get off mute fast enough.
Main Street and connect communities. And then I'm gonna call on Representative Armstrong. So get ready, Dave.
What was my task? Just tell people. I think
Just to
I was taking attendance. So surprise, I didn't tell you, but we'll count anybody who's here as attending a relevant webinar for your Connect Communities contract. So.
And can you tell us how many Main Street programs there are and how many Connect Communities and what a community might do if they want to be part of it?
We have 34 main streets, and I think we're up to 89 Connect Communities all around the state. So those are folks that are doing great work in their downtowns, including most of you. If they are interested in joining the Connect Communities program, which gets you access to all of our training and workshops and resources. We have a whole toolkit on creating murals. Not that we're going to only talk about murals, but many of you have them.
You love murals.
We have a toolkit on that. We do webinars, we do workshops. We have a toolkit on, dealing with road construction in your downtown, all kinds of useful stuff. So if you want to be part of that network, there's an application period coming up April 15th if you're not already in the club. And there's not very many of you on the call that are not in the club. So if you're on the call and not, you should definitely consider it.
Okay, thank you. Representative Armstrong, I'm calling on you because you are not only an elected official, thank you for your service, but you are also the Barron County Economic Development Corporation Director.
Correct.
So you have a perspective on the arts and creativity in your rural communities that you and I have talked about, and I'd just like you to say a few words about that.
And I'm still trying to get your bill passed, working with Roser.
Oh, bless you. We're going to keep fighting.
I know, I have a feeling it's going to slip to next session, but it's still working. Yeah, from the economic development side, what we've done here is we launched placemaking in 3 cities about 5 years ago. Went very well, but like most organizations, as everybody understands on here, you get a group of people that kind of shepherd this thing, but it's always the 80-20 rule. 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people. All right, so you kind of burn them out. And that's what's happened over time. And so we're actually going to be relaunching or rebooting it this spring in Barron, Rice Lake, and Cumberland. Now, Chautauqua, God love them, they decided they wanted to do their own project the first time. And I'll call it branches and benches. They planted a couple of trees and put some benches in. I don't think it did what they wanted it to. So now I think they've come back now and want to be included in this go around as well. Well, great. And we're going to take them all and we're looking forward to rebooting it. But as everybody knows on here, with the placemaking, with yes, tourism and culture and arts in general, it's all about getting people to your locales and holding them as long as you possibly can. All right, that's the whole key behind placemaking. Our county's unique, Barron County is unique from the standpoint of where it's situated. It's more of a commerce hub for the counties around us, especially the northern ones. So in other words, people will come in, buy stuff, see stuff, and then go to their lake homes, go to the resorts. Well, then they'll come back into Rice Lake, do the museums, do everything that's here, and then go back. Well, as retail's changing, which everybody knows. So that's been the key over the last 5 years is you can't rely on that retail piece anymore. You got to have more cultural stuff. You got to have more arts. You got to have more things to bring people into your city and to hold them longer. We're going to be kicking off. We tried it last year, but it was poorly attended. So we're going to be doing it again this year. Is we're going to have an arts, if you will, meeting. I just want everybody to get together in the room because it's like the best kept secret that it's out here. And so I want to get everybody from all different types of arts together to sit down and say, all right, guys, what's here? Let's take stock of what's here. How do we promote it? Because then once we get an idea of what's going on, I can go out and find the money. I mean, everybody on here is used to asking for money. We can go find the money to make it happen. But the key is to try to get everybody kind of together and what do we have that we're going to try to sell here? So I guess that's my little 2 minutes here of kind of what we're doing here in the region.
I appreciate that. And by the way, I want to be at that meeting, so let's talk about that.
Oh, great. Okay, perfect.
Thank you for that. And I wanted Representative Armstrong just to talk, because again, he represents, you know, the decision makers in this in the government, and also is working on the ground. And your speaking reminded me that one thing I didn't mention, and again, I'll send information about that, is Make Music Day. And Barron, I think of it because Barron is one of the Make Music communities.
Yeah, they did a great job with it.
Make Music Day is a global day of music that started in France in the early 1980s and is now in hundreds of countries around the world, and in almost every state in this country. In Wisconsin, we're one of the biggest Make Music community states there is, and Arts Wisconsin has been helping facilitate that. So every year on the summer solstice, which is June 21st, communities make music. And some of you, I'm looking quickly, may be involved in this, but right now we have about 16 communities from Milwaukee to Barron to Land O'Lakes. Again, Land O'Lakes is about 800 people, and everywhere in between that are involved in the Make Music experience. It's not hard and it's fun. And it's really all about your community helping people make music on this one day of the year. So I'm going to send people information about that. Would love to talk to anyone who's interested. It's a really great way to get people, again, making music in your downtown in a fun and very involved way. So that's another program that you can add to the list of things you already have to work on. But again, it's a great community building project.
My 17-year participated in that and in Barron, and his feedback was absolutely phenomenal. He said, Jen, it was like everybody just calmed down and got together all in the same place. He's like, you could just see it mend our community. And I was like, okay, out of a 17-year-old's mouth, that's great, amazing feedback.
Music is the universal language. So Make Music Day is a great way to do that. So thank you for that testimony. Any other questions, comments, things you want to show off? I'm glad you're putting things in the chat box because we'll keep a record of that and we'll send that to people. Anything that you've been thinking about that you want to just put out there? Oh wait, Jamie, your hand is up.
Thank you. I have a quick question. So Jamie Barshik, Village of Windsor. We just completed a 5-year planning exercise on a redevelopment plan of our downtown, and we've been working closely with Aaron from Connect Communities in that. And we're just starting the implementation. One phase that we've recently completed is we've acquired roughly 15 properties, blighted properties in our downtown area that we will be or have started raising most of those structures to provide opportunities for public and private partnership reinvestment. Part of that, we're looking to relocate our village hall in that downtown area to kind of start a catalyst destination area. But as part of our implementation strategies, I guess the question that I have is, how do we start to think about incorporating arts into our redevelopment of the downtown area? Some of the examples you showed were very were kind of catchy, Egg Harbor, the eggs, Sturgeon Bay, the sturgeon. Windsor has a strong kind of background in agricultural heritage. So there's maybe some things that we can play off of that. But I was just wondering, how have other communities kind of started the process or started the creative thinking that we can, do internally as staff, and then also start involving our residents to see if there's a theme that we can come up with to bring to the downtown area, but then also expand it in other public facilities, parks, trails, etc. So I know that's a loaded question and it may require time off, but I just wanted to take the opportunity to at least ask.
So I'd love to hear from people, but Jamie, you and I will talk about that as well, because I've got plenty of ideas. But I'd like to hear anyone who wants to offer a response about how you got started. I know you all have projects that you got started on. Okay, I'll just say, and again, we can talk more about this. You get started, oh, this sounds so basic. You get started by getting started. You gather a committee. We love committees, don't we? You gather, Sue, you can put something in the chat box. You gather a committee of people from local government and from the community, and not necessarily all artists. I mean, yes, definitely artistic people, but also, you know, the principal of the elementary school or a local business person, those kinds of people. And you really sit in a room and you say, okay, here's an idea. What do we already have going on that will help this idea? And what are the ideas that will move it forward? As Representative Armstrong said, getting people in a room together and saying, what do we have? And what do we want to do? What do we have? And how do we even start? Writing those things on a piece of paper on the wall is where you start. And then, of course, the cherry on top is that everybody has to leave the meeting with a task, and someone has to hold those people to the tasks. That's why we all get paid the big bucks. But I mean, that's the key. It's really getting people together in a room, calling it a committee or not, and talking about this opportunity and how you get it started. And I've never had a situation where people haven't been full of ideas. People are full of ideas. You have to move them to actions. But I think that's the way to start, Jamie. You say to X number of people, 10 people, would you come to this meeting on this date? We're going to talk about some great quality of life opportunities for Windsor. So you and I can talk more about that, but that's kind of, that's the quick and dirty way. And I'm sure all of the people on the screen have stories about how they did that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for asking the question. We've got about 2 more minutes. Anybody else have any, let's see, anybody else have any things they want to say? Any other questions? I'm looking for hands on the screen. Anything you want to brag about? I can let you go 2 minutes early if that's okay. All right, I think we'll let you go 2 minutes early. I really appreciate all of you being here. And thank you for your input. I'm really glad you've gotten all this stuff in the chat box. I'm gonna keep all of that. As I said, this has been recorded. It's also been live on Facebook, and I hope. And you'll get a follow-up in the next week. And then I look forward to the continuing conversation. Thank you all for your good work. Stay warm.